The stars looked different when death came calling. Commander Veltar Krex stood on the bridge of his massive warship, watching the small blue planet grow larger on his screens. Earth, they called it. Home to the humans. Krex was 4 meters tall, built like a walking nightmare. His black shell covered muscles that could crush steel. 6 arms ended in claws sharp enough to cut through metal. His eyes, all 4 of them, glowed red in the darkness of space. Behind him stood his crew, each one a perfect killing machine bred for war. "Sir, we are getting close to their planet," said his second in command. The creature's voice was like breaking glass. Krex clicked his mandibles together. It was how his kind laughed. "Good. This will be quick work. Look at their ships." On the screen, small human vessels moved around Earth like insects. They were tiny compared to Krex's battleship. His ship was 5 kilometers long, grown from living metal that could heal itself. It had conquered 17 worlds. Each victory made it stronger. "They have no real weapons," Krex continued. "No armor worth talking about. How did a species this weak even reach space?" His crew clicked and hissed in agreement. They had studied the humans for months. The reports were clear. Humans were soft, small, and had no natural weapons. No claws, no fangs, no poison. They were prey animals that somehow learned to build machines. "Sir, we are getting a message from the planet," announced the communications officer. "Put it on screen," Krex ordered. The image that appeared made Krex want to laugh even harder. A human female stood in what looked like an important room. She was so small, barely reaching Krex's knee if she stood next to him. Her skin was pale and soft-looking. No scales, no armor, nothing to protect her weak body. "I am Ambassador Hana, of Earth," the tiny creature said. "We have received your message. Krex had sent a simple demand an hour ago: surrender or die." It was the same message he had sent to 16 other worlds. Most surrendered immediately when they saw his ship. The smart ones knew when they were beaten. "You speak for your entire species?" Krex asked, his voice booming through the communication system. "I do," Hana replied. Her voice was calm, steady. Krex found this amusing. Most species begged or cried when they first saw him. This little human acted like she was discussing the weather. "Then you know why I am here," Krex said. "Your world belongs to me now. You have one choice: surrender and live as slaves, or fight and die." Behind Hana, Krex could see other humans moving around. They were all small, all weak-looking. One male, who seemed to be called June, was looking at some kind of data pad. A female named Mira was speaking quietly into a communication device. Another male, Day, was watching screens that showed Krex's ship. "We would like to discuss terms," Hana said. This was new. Most species either surrendered immediately or started shooting. Humans wanted to talk. "There are no terms," Krex replied. "Only surrender." "We understand your position," Hana said, "but we would prefer to meet in person before making any final decisions. Would you be willing to receive a diplomatic party aboard your ship?" Krex's crew looked at each other. Some clicked nervously. It was unusual for prey to walk willingly into the predator's den. "You want to come aboard my ship?" Krex asked. "Yes." A small group. Just myself and a few advisors. Krex thought about this. It would be entertaining to have the humans see his ship up close. Let them understand just how outmatched they were. Maybe seeing his bioweapons and war machines would make them more cooperative. "Very well," he decided. "You may bring 5 others. No weapons." "Agreed," Hana said immediately. The communication ended. Krex turned to his crew, mandibles clicking with amusement. "Prepare the receiving bay," he ordered. "Make sure they see everything. I want them to understand what they are dealing with." His tactical officer, a creature with too many teeth, spoke up. "Sir, should we scan them for weapons?" "Of course. But I doubt they have anything that could threaten us. Look at them. They are like children playing with toys." While his crew prepared, Krex reviewed the intelligence reports on humans one more time. They had developed space travel only recently. Their weapons were primitive chemical explosives and simple energy beams. Their largest ships were smaller than his fighter craft. The most interesting thing about humans was how they had spread across their planet. They lived everywhere from frozen wastelands to burning deserts. They adapted to any environment. But adaptation and conquest were different things. An hour later, a small human ship approached Krex's vessel. It was laughably tiny, like a gnat landing on a giant. The ship docked with barely a whisper. Krex made his way to the receiving area, followed by a dozen of his finest warriors. He wanted the humans to see what real predators looked like. The airlock opened, and the humans stepped through. Krex had to look down to see them properly. Hana was even smaller in person, barely reaching his second joint. Behind her came 5 others, June and Mira from the communication, plus 3 new faces. A quiet male called Tai, who seemed to be watching everything. A female named Kai, who carried a small bag. And another male, Sul, who was looking at a handheld device. "Welcome aboard," Krex said, spreading his 6 arms wide. The gesture made him look even more imposing. Hana looked up at him without fear. "Thank you for agreeing to meet." "Follow me," Krex commanded. "I will show you what you are facing." As they walked through his ship's corridors, Krex pointed out the various weapons and defenses, bio-cannons that could melt metal, living walls that could repair themselves, warrior spawning chambers where his crew was grown. The humans said little, but their eyes took in everything. Krex noticed that Tai kept his hand near his belt, though scanners had confirmed he carried no weapons. Sul was still looking at his device, occasionally making notes. "Impressive," Hana said when they reached the main war room. "How many worlds have you conquered with this ship?" 17, Krex said proudly. Each one thought they could resist, each one learned better. "And how did those conquests go?" Hana asked. "Quick battles? Long sieges?" "Quick," Krex replied. Once they saw what they were facing, most surrendered immediately. The smart ones did anyway. Hana nodded as if this was exactly what she had expected to hear. "I suppose you want us to surrender now," she said. "It would be wise," Krex agreed. Hana looked at her companions. They seemed to have a silent conversation with just their eyes. Finally, she turned back to Krex. "Before we make any decisions," she said, "we would like to see a demonstration of your power. Something to help us understand what we would be facing if we chose to resist." Krex's mandibles clicked with pleasure. Finally, the humans were showing proper fear. They wanted to see his strength so they would know better than to fight. "What kind of demonstration?" he asked. "Your finest warrior," Hana said simply. "Or perhaps one of your war beasts. Something that shows us the true power of your species." This was perfect. Krex knew exactly what to show them. Something that would crush any thoughts of resistance they might have. "Very well," he said. "I will show you something that will make your decision very easy." Krex led the humans deeper into his ship, his massive form casting long shadows in the bioluminescent corridors. The walls pulsed with a sickly green light, like the inside of some giant creature. Which, in a way, they were. The ship was alive, grown rather than built, and it hungered for battle just like its crew. "Your ship is quite large," Hana observed, her small voice echoing in the vast hallway. "Large?" Krex's mandibles clicked in amusement. "This is a medium-sized vessel. You should see our dreadnoughts. They are 10 times this size." Behind him, his crew members chittered and hissed with laughter. The sound was like breaking bones, mixed with escaping gas. Several warriors had joined them as they walked, attracted by the novelty of seeing prey animals walking freely through their domain. "Tell me," Krex said, looking down at the tiny humans, "what is the largest predator on your world?" Saul, the one with the device, looked up. "That would depend on how you define predator. In the ocean, we have great white sharks. On land, perhaps grizzly bears or large cats." "How big?" Krex asked. "A great white might reach 6 meters in length. A grizzly bear could be 3 meters tall when standing," Sul replied. Krex stopped walking. His crew stopped too, creating a circle around the humans. The comparison was too amusing to ignore. 6 meters, Krex repeated slowly. I am 4 meters tall. Your largest predator is only slightly bigger than me. He gestured to one of his warriors. Velkin here is 4.5 meters. Your greatest predator would be a fair match for one of my ordinary soldiers. The crew found this hilarious. Their clicking and hissing grew louder. And you, Krex continued, pointing a clawed finger at Hana, you are barely 1.5 meters. I have seen hatchlings bigger than you, fresh from the spawning pools, not even a day old, and already larger than your species leader. Hana remained perfectly still, her face showing no emotion. Krex found this almost disappointing. Where was the fear, the trembling, the begging for mercy? You must understand, Krex went on. This is why conquest is inevitable. Look at the differences between us. He spread his 6 arms wide, each one ending in claws that could rip through metal. I have natural weapons, natural armor, strength that could crush your fragile bones without effort. Tay, the human who seemed to be some kind of guard, shifted slightly. His eyes never left Krex, but his hand moved closer to his belt. The gesture made the crew laugh harder. What are you going to do? Asked Velkin, the warrior Krex had pointed to earlier. Hit us with your tiny fists? Your soft little hands could not even scratch our shells. Perhaps we should keep some of them, suggested another crew member. They could be amusing pets, so small and helpless. I have seen prey animals with more natural defenses, added a third. At least most creatures have fangs or speed or poison. These humans have nothing. Krex nodded approvingly. His crew was right to mock. It helped establish dominance, showed the humans exactly where they stood in the natural order. Your species evolved wrong, he told Hana. You became intelligent without becoming dangerous. It is a dead end. Intelligence without power is just weakness with fancy words. They reached a large chamber where Krex planned to demonstrate his ship's capabilities. The room was filled with weapons of various sizes, each one designed to kill in a different way. Bioweapons that dissolved flesh, energy cannons that could melt through starship hulls, projectile weapons that fired living ammunition. Choose any weapon, Krex offered generously. Pick up anything you like. Try to hurt me. Hana looked around the room but made no move toward any of the weapons. That would not be fair, she said. We are guests aboard your ship. Guests? Krex clicked with renewed amusement. You are prey. The only reason you are still alive is because I find your weakness entertaining. He picked up a bio-rifle, a weapon designed for his species' multiple arms. The weapon was nearly as tall as Hana. This rifle fires living projectiles that burrow into the target and eat them from the inside, he explained. It is considered a light weapon by our standards, standard equipment for new recruits. He tossed the weapon to the ground near Hana's feet. It landed with a heavy thud, too large and heavy for human hands to even lift properly. Pick it up, he commanded. Hana looked down at the weapon, then back up at Krex. I do not think I could even carry it properly. Exactly, Krex said. You could not even hold our weakest weapon. How do you expect to fight us? His crew was having the time of their lives. Several had started making bets on how long the humans would last in actual combat. The estimates were not flattering. Perhaps we could arm them with eating utensils, suggested one warrior. Those might be more their size. Or toothpicks, added another. They could poke us very gently. The laughter grew so loud it echoed through the chamber, but Hana remained calm. She looked at each warrior in turn, her dark eyes taking in every detail. When she spoke, her voice cut through the laughter like a blade. You have conquered 17 worlds, she said. Tell me about them. Krex was surprised by the change of subject. What? The 17 worlds you conquered. What were those species like? Stronger than you, Krex replied. Much stronger. The Kazeth had natural armor and energy weapons. The Morvac were 3 meters tall with acid blood. The Zenthi could change shape and had telepathic abilities. And yet you defeated them. Oh, Hana observed. Of course. We are the apex predators of this galaxy. No species can match us in combat. The Zenthi, Hana continued, with their telepathic abilities. How did you overcome that advantage? Krex puffed up with pride. We developed mental shields, adapted our brain chemistry. We evolved to counter their power. The Kazeth with their armor and energy weapons. We created acid spitters that could dissolve their protection. Then we closed to melee range where our claws gave us advantage. The Morvac with their acid blood. We learned to fight from a distance, first then developed neutralizing agents. Hana nodded thoughtfully. So you adapt your tactics to overcome each species' natural advantages. Obviously, Krex said. That is what superior predators do. We learn, we adapt, we overcome. And what tactics have you developed for humans? Hana asked. This made Krex pause. The question seemed almost insulting in its obviousness. Tactics? He repeated. What tactics do you need against prey? We simply take what we want. Your species has no natural advantages to overcome. No armor, no claws, no fangs, no poison, listed Velkin. No telepathy, no energy weapons, no acid blood. They are just soft meat. The only question, added another warrior, is whether we kill them quickly or slowly. Hana listened to all of this without any change in expression. Her companions remained equally calm. June was still taking notes on his datapad. Mira was recording everything. Sol continued to scan with his device. Kai stood quietly with her. Bag. Tay kept watching the exits. You mentioned wanting to see a demonstration, Krex said, returning to the original topic. I think I know exactly what to show you. He led them toward another section of the ship, his crew following eagerly. They were curious to see what their commander had in mind. We keep our greatest war beast in the arena section, Krex explained, as they walked. It has never been defeated in combat, not once. We captured it from our homeworld's most dangerous continent. What kind of creature? Sewell asked. A Nethrak, Krex said with reverence. The perfect predator. It has intelligence, speed, strength, and regenerative abilities. It can regrow lost limbs in minutes. Its hide can deflect most weapons. And it has never shown fear. They reached a viewing platform overlooking a large circular arena. The space below was scarred with claw marks and burn marks from countless battles. We use this arena to test new weapons and train our warriors, Krex explained. The Nethrak has killed hundreds of enemies. It is the reason many species surrender immediately when they hear we have one. He activated a control panel, and a section of the arena floor opened. From the darkness below came a sound that made even Krex's warriors step back from the viewing platform. It was not quite a roar, not quite a scream. It was the sound of something that had never known defeat and never learned fear. Behold, Krex announced as the creature emerged into the arena, the perfect killing machine. The humans moved closer to the viewing platform's edge to get a better look, and for the first time since boarding his ship, Krex saw something different in their eyes, not fear, interest. The Nethrak rose from the depths of the arena like a nightmare made flesh. It stood 3 meters tall at the shoulder, its body built like a massive wolf, but covered in scales that shifted from black to deep purple in the artificial light. 6 powerful legs ended in claws that scraped against the metal floor with each step. Its head was elongated, filled with rows of teeth designed for tearing and crushing. But the most terrifying thing about the creature was its eyes. They held intelligence. This was not some mindless beast driven by instinct. This was a thinking predator that enjoyed the hunt. Beautiful, breathed Sewell, leaning forward to get a better view. Krex's mandibles clicked with pleasure. Finally, the humans were showing proper respect for superior life forms. The Nethrak is the apex predator of our homeworld, he explained. For millions of years, it ruled the darkest continent on our planet. Even we feared it, until we learned to capture and train them. The creature below moved with fluid grace, every step calculated and purposeful. Its nostrils flared as it tested the air, searching for scents. Even through the viewing platform's barriers, it seemed to sense the presence of potential prey above. How intelligent is it? Asked June. his pen hovering over his datapad. More intelligent than most species we have conquered, Krex replied. It can solve complex problems, plan ambushes, and learn from its mistakes. Some say it is almost as smart as we are. Almost, repeated Mira quietly. Yes, almost. But intelligence without the proper physical form is useless. The Nethrak has both. Perfect mind and a perfect killing body. The creature had noticed them now, its head turned upward, and those intelligent eyes fixed on the viewing platform. Specifically, they seemed to focus on the humans. It smells you, Velkan observed with amusement. Fresh meat always gets its attention. The Nethrak began to pace in a circle below them, never taking its eyes off the platform. Its movements were hypnotic, predatory, like a shark circling before an attack. How many has it killed? Hana asked. Hundreds, Krex said proudly. Warriors from a dozen different species. Some came in groups of 10 or more. The Nethrak killed them all. What was the largest group? Sewell wanted to know. 15 Kazeth warriors, all armed with energy weapons and armor. The Nethrak took some damage but healed within minutes. By the end, it was playing with them. Below, the creature had stopped pacing. It sat back on its haunches like an enormous cat. But its attention never wavered from the humans above. It seems very interested in us, observed Kai. She had spoken so little that several of the crew members jumped at the sound of her voice. It knows prey when it sees it, laughed one of the warriors. Your scent must be driving it crazy. Would you like a demonstration? Krex asked. I could have some of my crew go down and spar with it, show you what real combat looks like. Actually, Hana said, I was wondering if we could see it in action against something from our world. For comparison purposes. Krex was confused. You brought prey animals with you? Not exactly, Hana replied. But we do have some data files of Earth predators, video recordings. Perhaps the Nethrak could react to those. This was an odd request, but Krex was curious. You want to show it images of your planet's predators? If possible, yes. It would help us understand the differences in predatory behavior. Krex shrugged and activated the arena's projection system. Show me these predators of yours. Sol stepped forward with his device and connected it to the ship's systems. The arena's walls lit up with images from Earth. The first video showed a great white shark attacking a seal. The Nethrak watched with mild interest but no real concern. The shark was impressive by human standards, but nothing compared to the sea predators of the Velthari homeworld. Next came a grizzly bear catching salmon from a river. Again, the Nethrak watched but seemed unimpressed. The bear was large and powerful, but it moved like prey compared to the creatures the Nethrak was used to hunting. Then Sewell showed videos of wolves hunting in packs. The Nethrak perked up slightly at this. Pack hunters were more interesting, required more strategy to defeat. Your predators are adequate, Krex commented, for such a small world. But you can see the difference in scale. Yes, Hana agreed. The difference is quite clear. Could we show one more? Of course. Sewell accessed another file, but this time he hesitated. This one is a bit different, he warned. Show it, Krex commanded. The new video began to play on the arena walls. At first, it seemed to show nothing threatening at all. Just a human, a small female, walking through what looked like a dense forest. She carried a simple spear and moved quietly through the undergrowth. This is your demonstration? Velkan asked with amusement. A human with a stick? But the Nethrak was no longer relaxed. It had stood up, its attention focused completely on the image. Its posture had changed from casual interest to alert wariness. The video continued. The human woman was tracking something, following footprints, in the mud. Hours passed in the recording, compressed into minutes. She never stopped, never gave up, just kept following the trail with mechanical persistence. What is she hunting? Asked one of the crew members. Watch, Sewell said quietly. The answer came soon enough. The woman was tracking a large predator, something like a bear but more dangerous. The creature had killed livestock and threatened a village. So she had gone after it alone. The hunt lasted 3 days in the recording. The human never stopped. When the creature tried to lose her by crossing rivers, she found where it came out. When it tried to hide in caves, she waited outside until hunger forced it out. When it tried to ambush her, she was ready. And all the while, the Nethrak below watched with growing tension. "She's so slow," commented Velkin. "So weak. How does she expect to kill anything?" But Krex was beginning to understand something that made his shell crawl with unease. The human in the video was not trying to be fast or strong. She was being relentless. The creature she hunted was bigger, stronger, faster, and had natural weapons. But it was also getting tired, hungry, desperate, while the human just kept coming, hour after hour, day after day, like some inevitable force of nature. Finally, the cornered creature turned to fight. It charged the human with claws and fangs, ready to end this annoying pursuit. The human sidestepped and drove her spear into its side. That was all. One precise strike. The creature collapsed and died. But what happened next made several crew members step back from the viewing platform. The Nethrak below had gone completely still. Its ears were flat against its head, its body low to the ground. It was displaying classic submissive posture, and it was staring directly at Hana. "What is wrong with it?" Krex demanded. Kai stepped forward and pulled a small device from her bag. It was no bigger than her palm, and it made no visible light or sound that the crew could detect. But the Nethrak's reaction was immediate and dramatic. The perfect predator, the creature that had never shown fear, that had killed hundreds of warriors, slowly lowered itself to the ground. Its massive head touched the arena floor, exposing its throat in the ultimate gesture of submission. It was bowing. To Hana. The arena fell silent, except for the sound of the crew's shocked breathing. Krex felt his shell go cold. "What did you do?" he whispered. Hana stepped closer to the viewing platform's edge. Below, the Nethrak remained motionless in its submissive posture, waiting. "We analyzed the neural patterns from your scout ships," she said calmly, "the ones that crashed in our system over the years. Very helpful for understanding your biology." "Our scouts never crashed in your system," Krex protested. "No," Hana agreed. "They were captured. We have been studying your species for 43 years, ever since you first entered our space." The device in Key's hand was still active. The Nethrak remained frozen in submission. "You see," Hana continued, "the Nethrak recognizes something you do not. It can sense what we really are." "What are you talking about?" Krex's voice cracked with confusion and growing fear. Saul stepped forward, his scanning device now pointed at the crew instead of the arena. "Commander, your intelligence reports about humans are incomplete, dangerously incomplete." "We know everything about your species," Velkin insisted. "You are weak, slow, defenseless." "Yes," Hana said. "We are all of those things. But you missed the most important detail." She gestured toward the submissive Nethrak below. "We are not the prey species on our world, Commander Krex. We never were." Tay moved slightly, and suddenly Krex realized that the human's hand position near his belt was not defensive. It was predatory, ready to strike. "We are the reason," Hana said quietly, "that all the other predators learned to fear." The Nethrak whimpered, and for the first time in his life, Commander Krex understood what it felt like to be prey. The silence in the arena stretched like a taut wire. Every eye was fixed on the impossible sight below. The Nethrak, the perfect killing machine, prostrated before a creature barely half its size. Krex's mandibles had stopped clicking. His bioluminescent patches, which normally pulsed with aggressive energy, had dimmed to barely visible flickers. Around him, his crew stood frozen, trying to process what they were seeing. "This is impossible," Velkin whispered. "The Nethrak bows to no one. We are its masters, and even we must use force to control it." But the evidence was right there in front of them. The creature that had killed hundreds of trained warriors was cowering like a beaten animal. Hana walked calmly toward the arena controls. "May I?" Krex found himself nodding before he realized he had moved. Some part of his brain, the part that had kept his species alive for millions of years, was screaming at him to do whatever this small human wanted. Hana activated the arena's entry system. A platform descended from the viewing area to the floor below. "You cannot go down there," Krek said, his voice hoarse. "It will kill you." "Will it?" Hana asked. She stepped onto the platform without hesitation. The crew watched in horrified fascination as the platform carried her down into the arena. The Nethrak's head lifted slightly as she approached, but it made no aggressive moves. If anything, it seemed to shrink further into its submissive posture. Hana walked across the scarred arena floor with calm, measured steps. When she reached the Nethrak, she did something that made several crew members gasp aloud. She placed her small, soft hand on the creature's massive head. The Nethrak's response was a low rumble that could only be described as contentment. It leaned into her touch like an enormous cat seeking affection. "Explain this," Krex demanded, his voice echoing through the arena. "What kind of technology are you using?" Kai held up the small device again. "This emits a frequency that mimics certain neural patterns, but the technology is not what matters." "Then what?" Krex was barely holding himself together. Sol stepped forward, consulting his datapad. "Commander, your intelligence on humans is not just incomplete, it is fundamentally wrong." Images began appearing on the arena's display walls. Earth's ecosystem, but not the peaceful scenes most species associated with habitable worlds. These showed the reality of life on Earth. "You see our size and assume we are prey," Sol continued. "But size means nothing to a true predator. Let me show you what you missed." The first image showed fossilized remains. "Megalodon," Sol explained. "A shark 20 meters long with jaws that could crush vehicles. Where is it now?" "Extinct," Krex said slowly. "Hunted to extinction. By humans." More images followed. Massive creatures that had once ruled Earth. Saber-toothed cats, cave bears, giant wolves, dire wolves, terror birds. All of them predators that had dominated their environments for millions of years. "All extinct," Sol said. "All hunted down by creatures who stood barely 1.5 meters tall." Mira activated another display. "Your reports mention that humans spread across their entire planet. Do you know what that means?" Krex was beginning to understand, and the knowledge filled him with cold dread. "It means," Mira continued, "that there was no environment on Earth where other predators could hide from us. Arctic tundra, burning deserts, dense jungles, mountain peaks. We followed them everywhere." In the arena below, Hana was examining the Nethrak's claws and teeth. The creature remained perfectly still, allowing her to inspect its natural weapons as if she were a veterinarian checking a pet. "The frequency device," June explained, "does not control the Nethrak. It simply allows it to sense what we really are, what every predator instinctively recognizes when they encounter something higher on the food chain." "But you have no natural weapons," Velkan protested weakly. "No claws, no fangs, no armor." "No," Tay said, speaking for the first time since boarding the ship. "We have something better." He gestured to the displays showing Earth's history. Every other predator relies on their physical abilities. Claws for killing, speed for chasing, armor for protection. But what happens when those abilities are not enough? The answer was written in stone and bone across millions of years of Earth's history. Species after species of apex predators, all destroyed by the same small, soft creatures. "We do not hunt like other predators," Hana called from the arena. Her voice carried clearly in the shocked silence. "We do not rely on being faster or stronger. We rely on being smarter and more persistent." She was still petting the Nethrak, which had now rolled partially onto its side like a giant dog seeking belly rubs. "Your Nethrak understands this," she continued. "It recognizes the scent of a species that has never, in its entire evolutionary history, given up a hunt." Krex felt his legs go weak. "But you are so small, so fragile." "Yes," Hana agreed. "We break easily. We die from things that would barely scratch you, but that just made us better hunters." Sewell brought up another image. A human persistence hunter, running across an African plain. "This is how our ancestors hunted. They would pick a target and follow it for days. weeks if necessary. The prey would run until it collapsed from exhaustion. Then we would walk up and kill it with a sharp stick. But that is impossible, Krex insisted. Prey animals are faster than humans. Over short distances, yes. But not over long distances, and we never stop. Mira accessed more files. Your own reports confirm this, Commander. You noted that humans have spread to every corner of their planet. Do you know how long that took? Krex did not answer. 70,000 years, Mira said. 70,000 years of walking across continents following herds, tracking prey across mountain ranges and ice sheets. We walked from Africa to Australia across ocean straits. We walked across the Bering Land Bridge to populate an entire continent. We never stopped moving, never stopped hunting. In the arena, Hana had somehow convinced the Nethrak to roll completely, over. The creature that had terrorized dozens of species was now exposing its belly to a human barely taller than its leg. The device is not controlling it, Kai explained. It is simply letting the Nethrak sense what our scent really means, the chemical signature of a species that has pursued its prey across continents and millennia. Every predator knows this smell, Tay added. The smell of something that will never stop coming. Krex looked around at his crew. They were all backing away from the viewing platform, instinctively trying to distance themselves from the humans. Even his greatest warriors, creatures bred for conquest, were showing submissive postures. Your 17 conquests, June said, consulting his notes. Each one fought with their natural abilities. Claws, fangs, energy weapons, telepathy. What happened when those abilities proved insufficient? They adapted, Krex said weakly. No, June corrected. They surrendered. Because they were fighting according to their nature as prey species disguised as predators. The terrible truth was becoming clear. All of the species the Velthari had conquered were like the Velthari themselves, predators who relied on physical superiority and intimidation. When faced with something bigger and stronger, they knew when to submit. But humans had never been that kind of predator. You study your prey before you hunt, Hana called from below. You adapt your tactics to overcome their defenses. We do the same thing. Sol smiled, and for the first time, Krex noticed that it was not a friendly expression. Except we have been studying you for 43 years. Since your first scout ship entered our system, Mira added. The one that malfunctioned near Jupiter. We captured it, Tay said simply. Learned everything we could about your biology, your technology, your psychology. Then we let you think it had been destroyed. Every mechanical failure since then, Kai continued. Every navigation error that brought your ships into our space. We were harvesting intelligence. Krex's shell felt like it was cracking. But our sensors never detected your ships. No, Hana agreed, climbing back onto the platform as the Nethrak watched her with obvious devotion. Just like our ancestors could track a mammoth for weeks without the mammoth knowing they were being hunted. The platform rose, carrying her back to the viewing area. As she stepped off, every member of Krex's crew instinctively moved away from her. You see, she said, looking up at the towering alien commander. You made the same mistake every species makes when they encounter humans for the first time. What mistake? Krex whispered. Hana's smile was gentle and terrifying. You assumed that because we looked like prey, we would act like prey. Below in the arena, the Nethrak had finally stood up, but instead of returning to its usual aggressive posture, it was looking up at the viewing platform, waiting for commands from its new pack leader. The question now, Hana said, is what happens next? Krex realized he was trembling. For the first time in his species' history, they had encountered something they could not conquer through force. They had found the apex predator of the galaxy, and it had been hunting them all along. The walk back through the ship's corridors felt different now. The bioluminescent walls that had seemed threatening before now felt like the nervous system of a trapped animal. Krex's massive form moved with none of its earlier confidence. Behind him, his crew followed in stunned silence. The humans walked among them as if they owned the ship. And in a way, Krex was beginning to realize, They did. Your crew seems upset, Hana observed, her calm voice carrying in the hushed corridor. They are processing new information, Krex replied carefully. Change is never easy, she agreed. We understand that. They reached the main conference room where this nightmare had begun. But now the massive chairs designed for Velthari physiology looked less like thrones and more like hiding places. Several crew members positioned themselves as far from the humans as possible. Commander, Sewell said, pulling out his scanning device again. May I ask you something? Krex nodded, not trusting his voice. In your conquest of 17 worlds, how many species fought to complete extinction? The question seemed simple enough. None. Once they realized they could not win, they surrendered. Exactly, Sewell said, because that is what rational creatures do when faced with superior force. They preserve their species by submitting. It is the natural order, Krex said, clinging to familiar concepts. For most species, yes, Mira agreed, but not for us. She activated a wall display and began showing images from Earth's history, but these were not the prehistoric hunts they had shown before. These were more recent. Human history is full of situations where surrender would have been the logical choice, she explained, vastly outnumbered by superior forces facing impossible odds. The images showed battle after battle, small groups of humans facing overwhelming enemies. Logic said they should surrender. Survival instinct said they should run. But in every image, the humans kept fighting. We have a saying, June added, give me liberty or give me death. It means we would rather die than submit. That is insane, Velkan whispered. Yes, Hana said simply. From your perspective it is. But that insanity is what makes us apex predators. Tay stepped forward, and for the first time, Krex noticed that the human moved like a predator. How had he missed it before? The careful balance, the constant awareness, the readiness to strike. Every species you conquered had a breaking point, Tay said, a moment when the cost of fighting became too high, when survival instinct overrode everything else. But humans do not have that breaking point, Key added quietly. We will fight until we are all dead, and then we will keep fighting. The display showed more images. Humans in impossible situations, continuing to resist long after any rational creature would have given up. Cities under siege for years. Armies, fighting to the last soldier. Individuals choosing death over surrender. You see the problem, Hana said. You cannot conquer a species that prefers extinction to submission. Krex felt something he had never experienced before. True helplessness. His species had built their empire on a simple principle. Demonstrate superior force, and rational creatures will surrender. But what happened when you encountered a species that was not rational? But you came here to negotiate, he said desperately. That proves you can be reasonable. Oh, we are being very reasonable, Hana assured him. We could have destroyed your ship the moment it entered our system. Impossible. Your weapons are primitive. Sewell smiled that unsettling smile again. Our weapons are exactly as primitive as we want them to appear. He activated another display. This one showed the space around Earth as Krex's ship had approached. At first, it looked empty except for the small human vessels they had dismissed as harmless. Then Sewell adjusted the sensor parameters. Suddenly, the display lit up with contact signatures. Dozens of them. Ships that had been invisible to Velthari, sensors positioned in a perfect intercept pattern around Krex's battleship. We have been tracking you since you entered the outer system, Sewell explained. Every movement, every scan, every communication. Your ship was surrounded before you. Even knew we existed, Mira added. Krex stared at the display in horror. His mighty warship was trapped in the center of a hunter's net. How? He managed to ask. The same way our ancestors surrounded a mammoth herd, Day said, speaking for the first time. Patience, planning, and the willingness to wait as long as necessary for the perfect moment to strike. But your technology is exactly what we choose to show you, Tay finished. Did you really think a species capable of interstellar travel would still be using chemical rockets and primitive computers? The implications crashed over Krex like a tsunami. Everything they thought they knew about human technology was a lie. A carefully constructed facade to make them underestimate the threat. The 17 species you conquered, Hana continued, all made the same mistake. They revealed their full capabilities immediately, thinking that overwhelming display of force would end conflicts quickly. But predators do not reveal their true capabilities until the moment of the kill, Key added. June pulled up another file. While you were conquering other worlds, we were watching, learning. Every battle you fought taught us more about your tactics, your weaknesses, your psychology. We have detailed analyses of every ship class in your fleet, Mira said. Complete biological profiles of your species, psychological evaluations of your command structure. You have been as thoroughly studied as any prey species in human history, Sol concluded. The walls of the conference room seemed to be closing in. Krex looked around at his crew and saw his own terror reflected in their eyes. They were predators who had just realized they were prey. The natural order of their universe had been turned upside down. What do you want? Krex asked, his voice barely a whisper. What any apex predator wants, Hana replied. Our territory respected, our pack protected, and no challenges to our dominance. She walked to the center of the room. Every eye followed her small form. You will return to your empire and deliver a message, she said. Earth is not to be approached by military vessels. Any ship that enters our system without permission will be considered a threat. And threats are eliminated, Tay added with casual finality. But, Hana continued, we are not unreasonable. We are willing to establish trade relationships, cultural exchanges, even mutual defense agreements with species that show proper respect. Respect? Krex repeated. Acknowledgement of the natural hierarchy, Hana explained. You have spent your history conquering prey species disguised as predators, but you have never encountered true apex predators before. She gestured around the room. Your crew understands now. Look at them. Krex did look. His warriors, his perfect killing machines, were all displaying submissive postures, just like the Nethrak had, just like every creature did when it recognized something higher on the food chain. We could destroy your empire, Mira said matter-of-factly. Hunt down every ship, track every world, eliminate every trace of your species from the galaxy. But that would be wasteful, Sewell added. Predators do not kill unnecessarily. We only kill what threatens our pack or what we need to survive. So we offer you a choice, Hana said. The same choice we offered to the wolves and bears and sharks of our world. What choice? Krex asked, though he was afraid he already knew. Learn to coexist with the apex predator, she said simply. Accept your place in the natural order. Most of the predators on our world made this choice. They found niches where they could survive without challenging our dominance, and those that did not make this choice? Hana's expression did not change. You can visit their remains in our museums. The silence stretched out until Krex could hear the ship's biosystems pulsing around them. His own heartbeat sounded unnaturally loud in his ears. You will have safe passage back to your territory, Hana said finally. Consider our offer carefully. Discuss it with your leaders. But remember this meeting when you make your decision. She looked around the room one last time, making eye contact with each crew member. Remember what your own war beast recognized the moment it saw us, she said. Remember that every instinct you have developed over millions of years of evolution is telling you the same thing. She paused at the door. We are not angry about your attempted conquest. Predators test each other all the time. It is natural, but the test is over now, and the results are clear. You have encountered the apex predator of this galaxy, she concluded. How you respond to that knowledge will determine whether your species has a future or just a past. The humans left the conference room together, moving with the coordinated precision of a hunting pack. As their footsteps faded down the corridor, Krex's crew began to collapse into their chairs. Velkan was the first to speak. What do we do? Krex looked around at his demoralized crew, then at the displays still showing the human ships surrounding them like sharks circling wounded prey. We go home, he said quietly, and we tell them what we found. What did we find? Asked another crew member. Krex thought about the Nethrak bowing to a creature barely half its size. He thought about the casual way the humans had revealed they had been hunting his species for decades. He thought about the choice they had offered, and what happened to predators who refused to accept their place in the natural order. We found out, he said finally, that we are not the apex predators. We thought we were.